Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Awakening Your Inner Genius. My name is Ken Pearson, and we have three students with us tonight. John Bonzel, former president of University of Science and Philosophy. You've got Karen Elkins over there. She is our science to sage expert. And we got Mr. Porter, both longtime students, John and Jim Porter and John Bonzel, both longtime students. I guess I'm kind of trying to catch up to them. I don't know if I ever will at 30 years. I don't know if I can make a jump like that, but welcome everyone. And we are going to go right into the lesson. We're on lesson 40, but we are going to take a minute just to unwind and get ourselves centered. So go ahead and get yourself settled in. And this is a time where we're going to do a lot of concentrating. So in getting ready for it, we're going to decentrate on these waves a little bit. Decentration is the portal to my meditation and what we learn in the home study course, how to quiet our minds down by unwinding our thinking. When we're concentrating, we're winding up, and when we're decentrating, we're unwinding. So you can see how the waves of the ocean are rhythmic, and feel that rhythm. Breathe in that sunlight, that beautiful sunset or sunrise. It could be either one. Just let yourself kind of settle down and get ready for a great lesson tonight. And I'm going to quote one of the meditations that are in the home study course in the second unit. And it says, "The glory of thy light descends upon me, and my soul quickeneth. Thy light is all around me. Thy light shines through me. Thy light encompasses me. I am dissolved in thy light. Thy light and my light have become one. I am immersed in my light. I am in thy light, knowing thy light. And I ask thee to be with me so that I will not be myself alone." And just let yourself be in the light. Let yourself be dissolved by the centering light within you. As Christ said, the kingdom of heaven is within. When you decentrate, you can feel that sense of joy of that ocean and all the life below it. And the rhythm of those waves just letting you feel peace. We know that God's light is with us. All right, let's come back. And we are on lesson 40. And Karen has done some visual imaging, and you're going to note some page numbers on there that will reference some of the page numbers that we're reading from. So try and take note of that as you see that visual journey coming up. And let's go to page 764. And John, would you like to read that first paragraph there? Living is expressing that light.
I would love to.
Okay.
Living is expressing that light which has been given. Dying is but regiving back to the one source that which has been given. All light comes from that one source and is regiven to that one source. That one source is the creator, the thinker, and knower of the universe, the father, mother of the universe, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. That is clearly descriptive of our creator, for omnipresence means everywhere, omnipotent means the father, mother who has all power, and omniscient means all knowledge. We can no longer bring ourselves to use the word he for our creator, for nothing has been created other than by fathers and mothers, mineral, vegetable, and animal. They in turn are creators of fathers and mothers. God therefore extends power to all things to create all things by that process which we call growth.
All right. You want to share on that?
Well, when people think about God creator, whatever term that people are comfortable with, they never think about those principles. Though, and I know, Ken, that you referenced the three omnis quite a bit, but there's certain truths to that, and that's it. You know, the trilogy, you know, all knowing, all powerful, all present. And people should take the time to think those three things into their own being, into their own knowledge, into their own resources, and see how it fits and applies to them. And once they gather that, then they can go, whoa, wait a minute. Am I really that omnipresent being? Am I really that knowledgeable to have all knowledge accessible to me? And so open up your minds, open up your hearts, and allow yourself to grow a little bit.
All right, Jim, would you like to share on that paragraph?
Well, how in the world would I follow that?
You
Okay,
can do it.
Karen. No, I'm kidding. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, it is just that simple. It's coming to the realization that as you grasp a greater and greater understanding of the divine that centers you in all things, it becomes more present in your life. And the more it becomes present in your life, the more you are able to utilize your talents and abilities to give it.
All right, Karen, would you like to share in that paragraph?
I think I would, but I'm going to add one thing for the next one. The totality of the meaning of knowledge is idea, and God has one idea, and that idea is creation. So when I think creation, then I think of the growth. And here's your opportunity to be in a domain where you can actually grow. You can actually expand your mind. You can try all kinds of things. You can be creative. And so you can go paint, you can go play golf, you can do whatever you want. You can go explore the universe. So there's that opportunity to grow. So I think that's kind of, to me, the fundamental part of the whole idea of why we're here. We get to go explore the things we love.
Well said.
All right. Well, I think the most important thing is that, is what what was so important to me about the omnis, the three omnis is what I call them, is that they're building blocks for my relationship to that Christ consciousness. As I apply those principles, and omnipresent is one where it's letting me know that God is within all things and outside of all things. That means everywhere, all the time. And within that omnipresence, right, I can tap in, you can tap in, as Karen just said, go golfing, go out in nature, go for a walk, and you can't help but feel something greater than yourself and your environment. Go look at a tree and a bird. I'll never forget the day I was sitting on my porch reading my materials, and a blue jay flew up, and I was reading about art. And I looked at that blue jay and I thought of how many human beings have painted birds, and they can make some amazing paintings. And then I thought about the life gene and that God painted that bird. And that's when I realized, wow, now that's art, right? Is that not art to look at a bird and realize that God created that, and that God is inside me? There's something inside of me, and that I can access that I'm a part of that art. And then the omnipotency, I really love that. We all come from a mother, father. We couldn't have been born without it, right? And we're part of this lesson, I think, that's going to be so important to me, is recognizing that thy mother, father means that God is not about he or she, but both mother, father, and that's what becomes undivided. And from that undivided comes the mother, father. But in the undivided realm, God is sexless. God is all there is. As Mr. Bonzel has said, that Leo had told him, God is. And getting familiar with that and learning to connect to that is you don't have to reach and you don't have to wonder, is God with me? If I invite God in, my job is to perform knowing that God is with me, guiding me, and that I want to think with God, I want to feel with God, and I want to act with God by desire. But I also have to have that conscious effort to do that. So I really like this breakdown of the three omnis, and that all knowledge means that God can create with the same system and tools that we can create with, which you've heard about through these lessons, called the elements of matter and the periodic elements of matter, and how that we as mankind can also work with them the same way God does, and that one day we will be there. And I believe we are on the cusp of proving through science and also philosophy, the proof of God, which we're going to get to in this this lesson, is going to talk about the removal of atheism, which is going to be interesting when that day arrives. So let's go on to the second paragraph on 64. Karen, you open that up. Why don't you go ahead and finish that up? You had started that.
Where am I? Well, we were talking about the minerals, so you want
The
me to?
totality of the meaning of knowledge.
Oh, I had to go back up. Totality meaning of knowledge is idea. God has one idea, and that idea is creation. God divides his ideas into many ideas and gives them form by thinking process. Man is but one idea, and man also divides his idea into many ideas and gives them form by man's thinking process. So it's just like thinking, what you think is what you get. So, I mean, that's why that's so important. The knower thinks love and gives only love to all creatures of God's creation. Man's supreme desire is to love and be loved, but in his present state of knowledge, he often creates fear and evil, and his fear and evil will destroy him until he realizes that love is all there is.
All right, let's talk on that. Who would like to share on that? Anybody want to step up?
Well, it's the illusion of good and evil, and that they're given an identity as something that has power over us, and it does not. It has limited power over body structure, and it can do harm to bodies through thought and action, but it cannot touch the soul. And so when you see these great teachings about history, they don't give in to evil and fear. They go and let them into the beginning, even to the point of their destruction. And by doing so, they are in that moment lifting all of humanity. They're sending out that pure thought wave of love, no matter what, to all of humanity, and it's an uplifting thing. And that's why we are an evolving humanity, not a yet fully evolved one.
Ken, what I would say is, and I've talked about this previously, fear is the great inhibitor on this planet for all peoples. Okay. So, but where does fear come from? And fear comes from the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And more that you become the knower and you understand these principles of how God creates things, how he brings them into our vision and how they disappear from our vision in that sequence. And the more you familiarize yourself with that and know that it's a simulation of the idea. So what is there to fear? Nothing. I don't know who the guy is that said nothing to fear but fear itself, but that is just so true.
I still don't like snakes.
So
well, you could say I'm concerned about snakes as opposed to I'm afraid of snakes. Snakes concern me. I like the word concern as opposed to fear in terms of the terminology for my life. I may be concerned about something, but I'm not afraid anymore. And Doc talks about in his life that the way to transcend that, and in the salutation today, is that talks about how, truth will guide my footsteps through tortuous paths. From all that is unlovely shall my eyes be immune. I shall desire to see the beauty in all things. And that's a loving attitude, and that fear and evil cannot exist when we're able to transform a car accident into a learning lesson, where we're able to transform a failing.
Ken, I would like to just touch on evil for a moment. And that's a word.
You did. You had your finger out. You were touching it right there. I thought you were touching evil. That's why I stopped. I was like, oh my God.
No, I should have. Maybe I should have went that way instead of that way. But look, evil is a concept that man invented. All right. Mm-hmm. And I love this word, and it's just a broadening. Like Leo said, that God is. And everything that happens, all right, just think of it as it is isness. It just is. You don't have to attach, a good or a bad feeling to it. Just acknowledge it for just being what it is. All right, because every experience is a good experience. Okay, it's a learning experience, it's a growing experience. So try to devalue this physical, embrace it, all right? But try to devalue things that would cause you to maybe have fear or think of something as being evil.
Absolutely. I think that was beautiful. Well said.
Very
You
well.
know, one of the things that I think fear has also created is when we look at our past. I know for me that my past used to haunt me. And instead of looking at the good things that happened in my life, I used to reflect on the things that I was concerned about. And thus, we could now go back to an old character and I could say I was afraid of. And I was afraid that would repeat themselves in my future. And that's the problem with looking at things of what to be afraid of, as opposed to what I really love is that what did I learn from that experience if it wasn't the greatest experience in my past? What was my learning? How do I transcend it and look at my past with love so that I can be with love right now? And therefore, when I look to the future and I use the love lens, as my girl Kimberly talks about all the time, right? Our love lens, and that love will conquer any concept of fear and evil. If you're in a loving state, you don't feel fearful and you don't feel evil. When I'm in a loving state and I get to luckily be in it often with my the love of my life, Kimberly Faith, and I can be in that loving state, there's no fear, there's no evil. My biggest concern is how do I take care of her? But that's not a fear. That's not a fear or an evil, right? If I have any concern, it's just wanting her to have the best. So and again, where does that come from? Love. So it's not a concern or a lacking thing. It's a desiring thing. And thus why love and the learning of love, right? How do you self-love? Let's talk about that for a second. What is self-love and what does that mean to the panel? What does self-love mean? How can we benefit from our studies and help others to recognize what is self-love? Well, I know that my friend there, Mr. Bonzel, has a lot of love for his home and he puts a lot of love into his environment around his home. And in that context, you do that out of a self-love, out of a love for beauty. And, you know, one of the things I really like about Mr. Bonzel also is the sunrise and the sunsets, the love of them. They're not just, oh, I get up for them. It's a love. And in his house, hopefully one day he'll be able to show our audience, there's these crystals all around that when that sunlight hits, man, talk about light refractions and rainbows, man, they're eternal in his home. So why are they there? Because he loves the way they rotate around, and he talks about the hues and about the way, look at that refraction over there. And, you know, why does he do that? Out of love. And I know my friend Jim Porter there has these chickens, right? I'm not a big chicken guy, but he loves his chickens and puts love into them. But I do love his eggs. I do like the eggs. I love the eggs that I get from his chickens. But like chickens in themselves have been like, and then you realize, you know, that's the closest thing to a dinosaur. There's always a way to look at something and go, you know, I never thought about it or looked at it that way. And Karen, I know, is a wonderful at this glorious young woman in her graphics and right attacking a modern age of digital content creators. And Karen is out there just busting it out. No fear, no evil. I'm too old. I can't do it, man. I got this. And before we started this podcast, you know, as we were giving our accolades about the video visions that she gives us, you know, she said the same thing that we've been reading. Oh, you know, after you do it for a while, it's not very difficult. Well, let me tell you, there are multiple layers of every image you see. It's not just one image. There are layers and layers upon that image that have to be constructed out of love, right? And logging 2 days and doing that. So, Karen, there's an example of, to me, of love in motion, love and expression. Anybody else got anything on how we love ourselves? How do we help our panel to help us to spread that?
I'm going to say something about what I really loved about the end of this session with this study was just the intent of the Russells. And the intent was, when you understand this, there will be no more fighting. There will be a sense of balance in relationship. There won't be atheists. You will be able to have your energy. You will know how to transmutate elements and have anything you want. And that really left me with such a warm, yummy feeling, because I know that's true. if you actually understood the basic laws of what it is and how things work, one, you wouldn't need to be afraid. Two, you would know how to even transmutate your own alchemy, your own chemistry,
Yep.
and how you behave within yourself, which is coming up next. And you know how the elements aren't just out there; they're what actually do best.
That's why we keep saying you're creating your life every day, and that's what you're hearing. You are the sum total of every action and every thought, feeling, action you've had in your life, sitting in this moment. And we, as a society, are the sum total thought, feeling, and action of mankind. As we sit right here collectively, that's what we are. So that's why when one person or one human being hurts, every human being hurts, and that's the love principle. And that love is universal.
That's the love thy neighbor as thyself. It's loving the self as one, as and with creator, and seeing the self and all other selves as creating selves. And it removes the selfish state that's often attached to love of self. Love of self over others causes the problems in the world, but love of self in your relationship with creator, and that creator, seeing that creator in all other selves, that is the correct way to approach it.
All right, let's go to the bottom of 764. Mr. Bonzo, would you like to read that?
No, you can't miss this one. This one you can't miss. This
All
one,
right.
it will surprise the deepest thinker and knower among men to be told that God creates only two things. This is critical because this goes into the whole chapter. Water and fire.
Karen, where are you at?
I'm at page, 765. I'm on the second paragraph.
Okay, so we're at 764, last paragraph.
No, it's the middle one. And so that is what we're going to be talking about.
I know, we're coming there, Karen, but right now we're going to read the last paragraph on 764. You're welcome to read that, though. Start on 764, the last paragraph. And then I'll tell you what, we might want to wait for you on that paragraph. Jim, would you like to read the last paragraph on 764? Then Karen can share on her paragraph after that.
Sure. All created things have sufficient knowledge or instinct for their survival as idea. Animals can reason to some extent. Instinct fulfills the balance of their necessities. Vegetable life has its own way of protecting its body from being destroyed by its ability to grow, although it has no means of protecting itself from destruction by defending itself as animals do with their claws and teeth, and as man does with his armaments. It knows how to become strong by resisting winds of refolding itself in winter weather to again refold by the warmth of God's light. Mineral life has no such protection, but to freeze itself in the light which created it and again melt through the heat of that very same light. All is light.
All right. So that's just a little spin on the animal, mineral, vegetable to realize that they all have male, female counterparts. We talk about that. It's hard to me when I looked at the mineral world. I'm like, wow, there's male, female mates in the mineral world. And of course, as we've been talking about, that's part of the elements of matter. If you take, anything and combine it like limestone and take it and mix it with aluminum, it'll give aluminum a shine. So those minerals will, and it's not the shine, but it actually, the limestone dries up the aluminum or makes the aluminum wet. I'm not sure which one. John, do you know which one it does? Make it wet or dry? Limestone to aluminum shines it up?
I'm not sure in what reference you're talking about there, Ken. I don't know if you're combining them.
Okay. I could be wrong. It's not a big deal.
But I would like to.
Inside of the wave, and aluminum is on the feminine, so you're probably dead on.
Yeah, I know I'm referencing the 53 lecture.
Yeah.
But anyway, Karen, let's hit your paragraph now.
Now I got to read it again.
Yeah.
It will surprise the deepest thinker and knower among men to be told that God creates only two things, water and fire. As the two curvatures have been created as the only tool for creating the universe, so also has there been two substances been created. Cold wetness and hot dryness constitute the bodies of all created substances we call matter. Cold
Okay, let's
wetness.
stop there. You want to share in that? I think that's a lot to unpack there. You want to unpack that for us a little bit, Karen?
Yeah, it's interesting because having just finished a book on water, and in water, and you'll have images of it, we'll show it to you in the slides. Water actually is the canvas for life. It is like the backdrop. It is what light, water, it's what holds the light. It's where the bubbles come in. It's where the dendrites that we have, like your fingers, it's all dendritical, which means they carry charge just like the cells carry charge. But it's all done through water. Water is the medium for the transportation and the canvas. And fire is the things of our desire, what we actually charge through our bodies and what charge through space. And you can see it in the landscape, which I'll show you too in the video, in the imagery of the videos, because that needs to be seen. And what's interesting, if you look at water in the ocean and you look at the heavens, you take the color out and they're identical. So when God said, I'm separating the waters from the waters, the firmament from he meant it. It literally is exactly what it is. So you can see the charge and how it really moves through. And what makes water is when you get a thunderstorm, the fire and the sky, and what happens? It rains. So now you've got a whole recycling system that happens. So one feeds on the other. It is the hot and the cold. So the cold rain comes down and it goes up to the heavens. It collects and it condenses, and then it comes charged alive. And it falls back.
And the battery is full of a bunch of water. So that's a great illustration. Anybody else on that water and heat principle?
Well, as we move along, Ken, you'll get another view of what wetness and fire is. Spheres are fires. Space is water. And the job of space is to prevent suns and planets from exploding. Everything in the universe wants to turn itself inside out. Okay.
That's a good hot tip.
And
Karen, you want to finish that paragraph up?
I know, actually, he's right. And that's yeah, it wants to turn itself inside out. It's like that torus moving like this thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So do
okay. All right, good enough. We are going to move now to page 770.
Ken, hold on. It also makes magnetic storms. So what happens with this fire, and when it creates the ring, it creates the magnetic field that we see, like around the planet, around yourself, and around a drop of water. So it actually creates individuated spheres within spheres. Like
we're not trying to overwhelm the audience with too much information, too much technicality, but so let's try and keep it to, the compression, expansion. We're talking about wetness and dryness are the two elements that construct this universe. It is that simple. And then the complexities can come in and the hexagon, trexagons, and tilagons and all those kinds of things. But the reality of it is the simplicity of what we're talking about is wetness and dryness are the two elements that God creates the universe with. That's what we're talking about. So let's go to page 770 and read 1, 2, third paragraph down there, James, if you would. That is what waves are for. And who would like to read that?
770. Ooh.
I think Jim wants to.
Oh, okay. Gee, John, thanks for reading my mind. That is what waves are. They divide the undivided static cold into a hot dynamic universe of motion, a three-dimensional universe from a non-dimensional one. This they do by developing a compression force which shortens long, cold, invisible rays into short, visible rays. Anyone who's ever looked at the water going down a sink, you see that happen. The more it shortens, the more it condenses, the faster it goes, and you could actually register a heat difference if you put a thermostat in there. Waves also create an expansion force, which unwinds the hot, solid spheres into cold, empty ones. Nature winds them centripetally and conically, and unwinds them centrifugally in one equatorial, which is an angle of 90 degrees from their conical axis. Now stop for a second.
Okay, can we bring up? Yeah, I'll let you talk on that, Jim and James. Can you bring up that image, number 51? There you go. So that might help you out a little bit, James, to talk from there. Jim, rather. Sorry.
I was just going to say an example. This is where Eve is derived from the side of Adam. Remember, we are both Adam and Eve. At 90 degrees to Adam's inwinding dominant masculine, Eve is born and becomes dominant feminine on the outwinding at the equator of all bodies. So these things are written in verse way back then for people that would not understood the scientific principle of it, but the scientific principle is sewn in there. And Karen pointed that out earlier. It's in many ancient writings. They just couldn't use the scientific terms then because they didn't have them, but the masters knew. They knew the working of the universe, and now humanity is ready to understand what's in front of us. And that's why the Russells were born here and given the knowledge they have to give to humanity, because we're ready for this. And this will be the transition of humanity.
All right. So if you look at figure A, you can see that those are light rays going into a bioconvex lens. And they come to a point when we call that conical, right? So, and what we're taking is compressing light waves. So that's how that bioconvex element is that lens that compresses light waves to make take long waves and convert them into short waves. And then to the right of that on the B imaging, you see a concave lens, which is to take those rays that come to a point and it expands them back into creation. And right there between A and B, you're witnessing the two forces, the two directions that the elements of matter and life is created from, is contraction and expansion. And is there anything you want to add to that, John?
Well, what I want our audience to know that they can't see those lenses in nature, but they can know that they exist, and they can know the sequence in which they operate. As you mentioned earlier, it's basically winding up and unwinding. Winding up creates heat, and unwinding creates cold. And it's that simple: up, down, in, out. And that sequence is forever and ever and everywhere. So when we say it's universal law, natural science, that's exactly what it means. It doesn't mean unnatural science, right? This is how God creates. It's very simple.
Right? It's not that complicated when you look at it. I agree.
But complexity, is what maybe throws man a curveball once in a while. But the sequence of events is all the same.
In principle, absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Anybody else on that?
Well, if you look at the convex lens, just look at it as they are the fulcrums that bring that lens together. It's a dominant feminine wave coming in from the dominant masculine wave, and it forms the lens. That's the makeup image. And once the lens is formed, it takes it takes its focus inward. But what you don't see is you can take both of those and put them on top of each other. So if that was the string on an instrument and you pluck the string, the repetition is caused by those two end sections, which are your I'm blanking out on the word, your fulcrums. They radiate from the fulcrums into, and then what you don't see is the outward radiation, which is the other one, which is B. You can see the string going back and forth and creating the sound, but you can't see the sound traveling outward, but you can hear it when it comes back to your ears.
Our next diagram will actually illustrate that. But before we go there, we're going to take our first break and get your legs loose and unwind and try and unpack everything that was just said. And remember, it is simplicity complexified. So we try and stay simple. Just try and stay simple, okay? Take what you can and enjoy the ride. And we'll see you in 3 minutes. right. You are back. And what I'd like to do here is, James, if you could pull up the image on 772, that's figure 52. And then, John, can you read the last paragraph on 770 and help us understand what that image is? And you're going to take that all the way through the first paragraph on 773.
Alrighty then.
James, can you rotate that counterclockwise, por favor? There you go.
Okay.
Oh, I did the wrong way. I'm sorry, James. Do a complete 180. One more. There we go. Now we're cooking. Okay, gotcha. And John, you want to go ahead and read that?
I'm not sure what I'm reading.
770, last paragraph. I'm sorry. You have your own, you don't have your own. So let's go to 770, James, just so you can see that diagram is what we're going to be referring. We'll come back to it in a second. 770, last paragraph.
All righty. We print 3 diagrams to make the spiral principle more comprehensible. Figure 52 represents the vibrations of a harp string, which multiply stillness into fast motion and produce audible tones corresponding to the octave principle of light waves. This drawing shows the spiral as though you were looking into the winding and unwinding of it, whereas the winding process takes place sideways from your point of view. You'll see it edgewise, as we have indicated in the little drawing at the top. To make it even clearer to you, take a watch spring in your hand and look at it edgewise, then turn it face to you, and you will see it as an architect does.
Up, James, other way. There you go. You going? You went the right way, James. And we'll go one more page. There you go. Oh, right there.
That's right. In his plan, an elevation on the same paper. In the lower left-hand corner, you will note the comparison between the sound of the harp string and the light of the spiral windings and unwinding of compression and expanding light. These windings cause that phenomena which we call fusion. The unwinding causes the effect of fission.
Okay, let's go back to the diagram. And John, can you talk us through that?
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
The top
so here
left.
we have,
go ahead.
I'm just saying, so here we have a drawing, right? And Doc's giving you several points of view. All right, so we're looking down on it is the big one, right? And then you look in the center. Now we're looking sideways as if it was a single plane. And then the same is up in the left-hand corner. All right. Upper right-hand corner is the same thing.
Yep.
And what's beautiful, what I love about that upper right-hand corner one, in Doc's book, The Secret of Light, you can see evidence there, what he calls the 4 rivers of light. And what you're seeing there is how God winds up space and creates stars. And that's how, and then they find their own position in the universe. So there is no, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, this Big Bang Theory and the world being taught that there was just a big explosion of something. Well, what the hell exploded anyway? I mean, and it just went out there. And so we got a one-way heat death, and how ridiculous. So the Russells, God said, all right, it's time. It's time to turn this ship around and get it on the right track. So, so I don't want to get too detailed here, but you see the one on the left-hand middle.
Can you zoom in on that, James?
There we go. Beautiful. Gravity and sound. And light and sound are one.
Right. There you see it.
Gravity multiplies, divides, and balances light and sound. Opening and closing spirals constitute the heartbeat of the universe. Beyond that, we cannot go. That's
Here's
it.
yeah, that's true. Good. I just think it's so cool that we got fusion and fission, right? And most times you hear those things, you have no idea what they mean. And here is an example of exactly what it means. And fission is to create and to densify, and fusion is to expand. That's right. Fission is to concentrate. Fusion is to expand. Compression, expansion, same pistons, same principle.
So if science would just use gravity as God does, it can create fusion all day long. But if he doesn't recognize and understand that process, then he'll just keep experimenting, and maybe someday we'll find it. But by the way, man, I did see something the other day with this 14-year-old kid had created his own little fission experiment, and how he was hired by by a company to take his concept and do it. So whether he intuitively understood these principles, but he was able to make it happen, on a small scale. So, but for him to have done that, he would have had to have followed these concepts.
All right, we're going to come back to page 773, if you would, James. And let's go with the third paragraph, and we're going to come back to the second paragraph just because there's diagrams exemplifying it. But right now, to try and simplify this a little bit, let's go to the third paragraph. And Karen, would you read that, please?
As a lay student, that one? As a layman student,
yes.
It would be helpful to you if you give a homely and familiar example of nature's spin winding and unwinding conically and centripetally in many extending planes, and centrifugally in one equatorial plane, which spins at the angle of 90 degrees from the axis of centripetal winding. The scientists will understand this without additional explanation.
Go ahead and keep reading.
Okay. You are all familiar with the cotton fiber, which loom spins into yarn, and cloths, strings, ropes, and other necessities for human existence. Why do man need to do this? Why does nature want to spin weak, invisible light rays into strong substances, just as man spins weak and almost invisible cotton and linen fibers into a strong, visible fiber like thin and thick ropes or strong cloths? Not many people.
You can share on that if you'd like.
Well, when you have your weave, which you have your three colors of light, red, blue, and what is it? Red,
blue, green.
Green, yeah. And you actually see that's exactly the weaving that goes into your TV sets, which creates nothing but a bunch of dots. That weaving creates what you see even right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it also is the way that it weaves is the way that a loom weaves, which I'll show you later in some of the videos. But it is a way light weaves the fabric of creation, and it is through the weaving. Oh, John's got it there.
Yeah, we're all weavers of light, if I'm understanding you correctly, Miss Karen.
Yes, we're all been woven of light. That's why it's so funny, because we get so wound up early, because we are human, H-U-E, the hue of the web. And so when everybody, and if you look at the color wheel, it's got the different color shades in it, from purple to yellow to whatever. And if you look at the human skin tone, it has different variations of that all along the spectrum. So we're all on the spectrum, and we're all human. So yes, we're all woven by light.
And those light rays are hues.
They're hues. Yep.
That's right. All right, James, Jim, you got anything you want to say on that?
Oh no, that was beautiful.
Okay, then would you like to read the last paragraph on 773?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Nature does it to manifest her many ideas, which have been divided from her one idea of creation. Man does it in order to manifest one of his many ideas by being able to survive the changing weather and to perform work which also characterizes the idea of he manifests.
All right. Let's go to James. Let's show him 774 image right there, figure 53. And John, you want to tell us what that is?
There we go. There's how your stars are born, the four rivers of light.
Yeah.
Winding up space and to incandescence and throwing those stars out into space. Beautiful.
And why do you call it the four rivers of light?
Okay. If you'll look at the spiral, if you'll look at it, you'll see that it is going in a counterclockwise rotation. And then you'll see the two black lines coming in, or cones, if you will, black cones. And then you see the two white ones being thrown out. And so those four rivers of compression and expansion is the term that Dr. Russell gave to them, the four rivers of light. Isn't that, I mean, look how simple that is and how beautiful that is.
You know what, when we look at that, the way you can actually visualize that too, which is often visualized, is the pine cone. It's got the tweak, and it's the way it does. And the sunflower does the tweak when it does. And that's when Buddha said, if you can look at a flower, you'll see the whole universe. And that's understanding right then and there what the ancient wisdom was.
And one more time, that's the golden ratio, isn't it?
It totally is.
Okay. Why don't we read that below there? Jim, you want to read that? Can you scroll up a little down there? Yeah, there you go. You can read that, Jim. That
Sure.
If you watch. There you go.
Let's jump back to the picture for just a moment.
Okay.
And look at the gift that we have here. We are in bodies that have a sense range that allows us to see the outwinding, compressed, heat-induced light. We can see that. But our limited sense range does not allow us to see the fact that what we call darkness is actually also light radiating in from God. When you have an illumination, the first thing that happens, you have a severance of the two lobes of the brain. There's a magnificent spark of pure white light, and you see and instantly know divinity. When you're in body, before that, you reach that stage, what you see is what's before you. You see light and darkness, but that's the beautiful gift of the illusion of embodiment. And like John was saying, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about something like that or an atom. They're both winding in and out in the same manner at different ratios. So it's a beautiful, simple example of creation through light, through desire. It really is.
And now, so the space winds up to make light, and also unwinds. Space also unwinds to return to light. So the one constant is space. Light is temporary. It's always in motion. It's sort of like sound. Sound comes from silence, and then Then when the sound makes an effort to express itself, it has to return back to silence. So silence is a natural state. Sound is an unnatural state. It's also, again, temporary, but the silence is also continuous. It's the equilibrium, just like space is the equilibrium.
Ken, on figure 53 there, is that the image that you used to get that shirt printed?
Yeah, I did. I took it from my silk printer, and I said, yo, man, can you give me this? All right, who's going to read the paragraph? Okay, John, now you got to read the paragraph below that image.
All right, very good. If you watch the workings of a loom, which spins cotton into its various forms, you will notice that there are many threads which spin conically and centripetally into one thread or one piece of cloth. The more colors that are needed for the design of the cloth, the more complex the threads become. The same thing applies to the mother at home, who knit yarns into thicker cords and cloths. She gathers them conically and centripetally, spirals, and spins them into one stronger cord or cloth. Oh boy, there we go.
So in essence, we're working with nature all the time and don't even know it. We're working the principle of creation as we live our lives and don't realize it, right? So it's, so to speak, as we learn in this home study course, I can't move my little finger without extending myself from my creator, from God. God has to allow me. I have to work with God to move that finger by desire. But without God, that finger will never move. So how often, but I'm not, if you're not aware of that, then that finger movement doesn't mean anything. And some people refer to it as the butterfly effect, right? About a flapping of a butterfly creates tornadoes and hurricanes in other parts of the world. So the same thing applies to what you're doing every day. You are either working with God knowingly or not knowingly, and it's the agony of you if you're not aware that you are working with God, because God's always there. That's that consistent state. So it's really, for me, it's about building that relationship within myself to that inner light, that still voice, and desiring to connect to it as I walk through the day and learn these things and see these things in nature that we're talking about. This obviously not only looks like the golden ratio, it is, but it also is describing. And Karen, you want to read this? What's in that box there?
Is that the more the physicist can command the principle? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, the more the physicist can
But can you read the first one before, above it? I'm sorry, James. You just scroll up a little bit.
Oh, I got it. If you watch the workings of a loom, which spins.
No, I'm sorry, Karen. Just that top part. In a curved.
Oh, I'm sorry. In the curved universe, all direction of momentum is curved, and all motion is spiral.
Okay, now we can go down. You can read that now.
Okay, the more the physicist can command this principle of the winding and the unwinding of nature to produce visible light rays from invisible light rays, the more he can command and control gravity to produce his needed miracles. He also learned to control it to surprise and extend, as we have clearly outlined in our very first pages on lesson number 37. And I think the great miracles that we have, and I think a lot of them, if I get it right, we've done. So the power projection from somewhere to somewhere one wishes to project it without the need of wires. Isn't that our cell phones? Isn't that what we're doing these days?
We got to read it a little more clear there. Power projection from anywhere to wherever one wishes to project it without the need of wires or cables. And yes, that would definitely refer to our cell phones.
Right, that's what I thought. And the power of converting solar rays to light and power, that goes into our fusion, the cold fusion that they're trying to cell power, solar cells.
Yep.
Which I don't think we're, and you got to remember, your skin is also like a solar cell. It also takes it in like a panel and does the same thing. And the other one, which is number 3, is
your skin is converting solar rays, converting light into power, right? We have to have sunlight. We need sunlight every day, right? 20 minutes minimum every day. We should be having sunlight. And why? Because it powers us up. Just like Karen's saying, we are empowered by the sun. We are powered by the sun. That's why we can't just stay in the dark and stay in a cave all day long. Go ahead, Karen, and if you would like to go through to the third one.
Wait, you got to remember, your body is 99.9% water at a molecular level. So your body, actually, the water is what gets charged in your body. So when you go out, you're actually charging your water just like the battery. So your body being your own battery, you're literally charging yourself. So what calls the power of transmutation of one element to another, that to me is when you actually realize, just like nature does, just like the thunderstorm, just like a volcano, there's that peak, that cone that comes up from a volcano. It's cold on the bottom because that's where the water is. And as the pressure rises at that peak point is where all the elements, the water, the fire, the air converge. That's the transmutation. That's the spin up where everything becomes one. And then it goes out from there, releases up, becomes the gases, becomes the fire, becomes the water, and the cycle goes in. Nature's already shown us how to do that. And the interesting part is we have had guys who have actually done cars running on water. Mm-hmm. And they know how to do it. And that is the technology we need to bring forward. That's some of the hydrogen stuff that's coming in right now.
Too bad they're not alive anymore. But yeah, we could definitely use that free energy, couldn't we?
Yeah. And but the thing is, it's true. And then that's right. So anyway,
So let's go down, scroll down a little bit on 776 there, and the end result, which would be the second paragraph. John, you want to read that?
Okay.
You know
The
what?
end.
I'm sorry, John. I'm gonna go ahead, and since we took a break late, let's take a break now, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap this up, and then you can expound on that because it's a really important part of the summarizing, so we can overview everything we've talked about. Okay, we'll see you in 3. Everybody gets your legs out and stand up and feel it out and enjoy the video journey that Karen set up for you. All right. Y'all come back now. You hear? Y'all come back now. You hear? All right. Hello, everybody. Where were we? Were we? Oh, yeah, we're reading the home study course. Okay. Okay, John, would you please read that second paragraph, 776?
I would be glad to, Mr. Kenneth.
776. There you go.
Okay.
Second paragraph.
You want me to read? You want me to read number 3?
Yes. No. Oh, yeah. You can if you'd like.
As it leads into that paragraph.
Sure.
The power of transmuting one element of matter to another. These 3 miracles of man's mind knowing will be discussed in their principles made crystal clear in the last lesson of the 11th unit of these lessons.
So
And
I was
that
going
unity,
to go ahead, skip that paragraph and go down to the next one, John.
okay.
The end result.
The end result we wish to obtain is to make man see that the roadmap we are giving him leads to the very door of the creative source. He will then thoroughly know that the power of the eternal God is the only possible answer, not only to the source of himself, but to the source of all creation.
Keep going.
If we succeed in doing this, the atheism of part of the world will disappear, for no great nation will permit itself to fall behind the science standards of the God-believing three nations. It will end the disunity of the great religions which have brought fear into the world by preaching sin and evil and punishment during life and after death through their conception of a God of wrath and vengeance. It will also bring balance into the world home and the family home. As a final achievement of colossal importance, it will end the degradation of women and place her as an equal by man's side.
Right.
These things have been achieved. The age of slaughter of such eons long experiencing will end, and there would be brought into being the age of character based on love and the oneness of all mankind.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting. I'm going to be speaking on the three lectures that Dr. gave in 52, 53, and 54. And he goes into great detail on this of how the awakening of man, and when it takes place, which it has started, and it continues, it will continue for 3,000 years, to where the character of man will continue to build, his God awareness will grow, to where all men will know their oneness in each other, their oneness in their creator. What a beautiful life. And, Jim, what do you think? Should we reincarnate in about another 100 years, 150, or give it a couple hundred?
I think I'll just come back at the end of the 3,000-year cycle.
You want to come back at the end of the three?
No, I'll walk the walk that Mike Rumble has laid before me.
All right, very good. So anyway, and Ken, what I'd like to emphasize is that the reason that we are doing this broadcast, this university was founded upon bringing character back into the world. That's what's missing. It's lacking character big time. And it all starts with the individual. So here we are trying to spread this message. We're trying to build character, bring beauty into the world. And hopefully all of our listeners will try to reach out and touch their 10. So we'll have legions of light beings spreading this message, and we'll be loving each other instead of tearing each other down. So,
hey, Ken, Karen needs to turn her sound on.
I did.
Oh, you did? Oh, hello.
I'm back in.
Okay.
You know, I really like that first paragraph that John read in relation to the last sentence there, that it says that we will then thoroughly know the power of eternally loving God. And I'm adding loving in because we've explained that God is love and God is light. Eternal God is the only possible answer, not only to the source of ourselves, right? So you want the answer to who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? And this tells you it's not only the answer, that God is not only the answer to the source of yourself, but the source of all creation. As John has talked about, as science never really talks about what gravity is, where it comes from. And the reason they can't is because it's of God. And because without that God mind, you can't consider what gravity is. That's the desire force of God. And so, but think of how important gravity is in the process of making creation. It's everything, right? It's what 15 pounds of pressure per square inch is what the earth is the gravitational force field of this earth. So everything wants to stay on the ground at 15 pounds of pressure per square inch. It's almost like thinking about a bunch of rubber bands on the surface of the ocean. And when the waves come up, the rubber bands move, but the rubber bands are still, those 15 pounds of pressure per square inch are trying to level that water right back out. So they can get the crest and the trough, Mr. Bonzel, not trove, trough. We can get the trough, the crest and the trough, and yet it's going to return back to a state. So the waves are temporary. They're an illusion. They're not real. but the ocean in itself as an idea is eternal, isn't it?
And I have a question, Ken. When you always say it's not real, in my mind, it's still, we're having the experience. Now it's temporary, but we're here having this experience, experiencing it. It is a light show. It is like the TV where you can trick your dial, you can pick a different channel.
If it was real, though, it would be eternal, right? What's love? What's rhythm? What's balance? Karen, listen. What's love, rhythm, truth, and balance? What are those qualities? Can you see them?
I think, like everything else that grows and then returns back, it has an opportunity to have an experience, to actually grow, to, when you go back to your cube and all those experiences are kept in that cube and you come back and you refold to the next one, you're building, you're growing. So to me, in my mind, they're still a part of your own evolution. So yeah, they're fleeting and they're coming. So that's the good part. I always think when you're a kid, if you always knew you were riding a wave and that wave is going to dissipate and there'll be another wave, and we knew how to ride the wave and we knew that they come and they go, then we could live life a lot easier, thinking everything that you hit at any moment isn't permanent. It does this.
That's what we're saying. Good for you. Yes. Very good. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. John, anything on that? Jim, anything on that?
I agree with Karen. It's the gift of light.
Yeah.
The gift of creation is the ability to experience what we call the ups and downs and the goods and the bads and and ultimately the good of the whole of creation, because it gives us experiences from the most horrific that we may choose to lead ourselves into to the most sublime. And we have the option to choose between them. And eventually we learn to choose ecstasy.
Right. But there is that principle, that which you can see, you cannot know. And that which you can know, you cannot see.
Yes.
For love, rhythm, truth, and balance, you can know, but you cannot see them. So they're not temporary, they're permanent.
Right.
If it was real, it would
creation
be
is permanent. Yeah, and creation is permanent also. It's just permanently in flux. Both are permanent.
That's okay.
Yeah.
John, anything on that?
Well, as I'm listening to my fellow panelists here, okay, the thing, Karen, that you want to understand is this course and the scientific principles are to allow you to understand the building blocks of creation. And so you don't want to get caught up in the illusion, but you want to know what the illusion is. And as Jim said, it's here for life's lessons. It's here to be enjoyed and embellished, right? It's a wonderful thing, but you can go too far. This body will take you to where it won't let you do anything but whatever is sense related. So when you know your true God self, right? And you can command matter and you can command light at will, that'll be a wonderful thing. So we're not discrediting life itself. We're just saying that know it for what it is.
Yeah.
Know from whence it comes and know from whence it returns.
I love that. I totally agree with that.
All right. Good. All right. Let's go to 777. Lucky 777s and read the. Who would like to read that second paragraph there? Would someone like to read that? And this is a letter to the students, and we're gonna just get that message and see what Leo and Walter were saying at the end of this lesson. And it kind of says there's some good things in here. So I wanted to go through a couple paragraphs there. And we have about 15 minutes left. It looks like about 18 minutes left. So who would like to read?
We trust that the time has now come in man's unfolding when he is ready to use his earth's great natural supplies for the benefit and good of all mankind. That's a big trust, but I agree with them. This can only be accomplished if man has a way of life in which he lives the inviolate law of rhythmic, balanced interchange in all his transactions, whether they be marital, social, or business, All the glorious benefits of man's universe are of little avail if man does not live God's great law of balance. Until he does, he will have one tragic experience after another in his personal life, which would ultimately multiply into worldwide catastrophe. Civilizations come and go. Walter Russell.
Now let's go ahead and share on that paragraph, Jim. Rhythmic balance interchange. Would you like to share on that?
Yes, well, it's exactly what it's saying. When you have a rhythmic balance, when you have equal regive to that which is given, it's a flow. It's the very wave cycles that you're talking about. But when one prevents that equal, if you receive and then you don't equally regive, then you start to stall and slow that flow, and you start to get stagnation and resentments and all the things that lead up to war and murder and all the things that follow people who find themselves incredibly frustrated and angry that they can't have what they see other people holding on to. It's an evolutionary awakening that is going on the planet. It really is. It's happening. But like John said, it's going to be a slow but steady awakening. But it is happening.
John, would you like to talk anything about rhythmic balance interchange?
Well, it's the essence of creation. And that last word, balance, I want to say this, that is the one gift that Leo gave me, that word balance and demonstrating it. And it was real simple how she did it. You know, she pointed out a little tabletop. There were X number of things on there. So she arranged it to where it was out of balance. And she says, and as you look at it, it catches your eye, because your eye will focus on that which is out of balance. Then she rearranges it to where it's perfectly balanced, and your eye doesn't focus on anything because it's balance. So as Mr. Porter mentions, as that giving and regiving, all right, as that becomes part of man's thinking, all right, the whole world will change. And I feel it. I'm sensitive to the world out there. And, you know, even though I live in a secluded zone, but I am aware of what's happening, and I feel that there is a change coming, and I'm very proud to be part of this panel and this process to help awaken man to his own divinity, and so life can be beautiful for everybody.
Let me simplify it for John. There's rumor that Leo followed up with, but she said, "Now, John, let me make this easy for you. Do you see what your cousin Jim is doing? Whatever you do the exact opposite, and you will be balance."
Yeah, I live by. That's funny because I hang out with John and I look what he's doing and know. Okay, do the opposite of what he's doing, and you'll have rhythmic balance interchange.
That's exactly right.
Karen, did you want to share on rhythmic balance interchange?
You know, what I was thinking of when you guys were talking about it is right now we're having some huge solar mass ejections.
Yeah, we are. We got eclipse, right?
We've got some that are blasting us, and people, and as a consequence, we're having earthquakes, and we're having volcanoes erupting.
Manamar, is that what it's called?
And it is. I know when the seasons change, we talk about pressure and, you know, expansion and pressure, and certain pressure conditions create different things on the planet. So people should just be a little bit aware that right now we're having a blast, which is pressure pushing on and compressing, and we are having literal eruptions at the moment. So, and some fusion and fissions going on.
Yes. Many people are calling it an ascension, and we're talking about transformation and a change and an age of character. We've talked about there's lots of different ways, and you know, rhythmic balance interchange for me personal, and I'm going to take it personal, right? How's your thought life been today? Has it had rhythmic balanced interchange? Are you having rhythmic thoughts, balanced thoughts? Because they're interchanging with the world you live in. You know, our countenance comes before we utter a word. People feel the energy of your spirit within. It's called your countenance. And so for me, rhythmic balance interchange became something very important in my own thinking and knowing, right? And I can know rhythm and I can know balance, but I can't. But what I want to do is think in rhythm and think in balance. And I'm in balance when I'm in fear and evil, and I'm balanced when I'm in love. And that's why that quality is so important to try and bring into your life as much as you can. And you're talking about somebody that came from zero love as a childhood and hard life in the streets and all those things. So love was definitely something that I learned, and I am the most loving, mushy guy now, you know what I mean, as it would be, because I didn't quite have it when I was younger, so maybe I'm making up for it now. But I can say that I really love love, and I love being that kind man, and I love being living in a balanced life, and what we just heard there is when you have proper balance, that's a natural state. You're unhappy, you're no longer in a natural state. The natural state of love is balance, and it's rhythmic. And the interchange is all about that love of what we've heard over and over again. Everything is trying to become every other thing. That's the interchange principle. So whether you like it or not, people are reading who you are, whether you say it or don't say it. You can't hide it. You can't even hide. And the more we progress as a species, we're going to learn telepathy to certain levels. We already have it. I intuitively read people all the time, but I've trained for many years in order to do that. But you can read people. I can read people very well by the vocabulary they use, the words they use, their demeanor, the way they treat other people tells me a lot about their character. Character is something that I learned, and this home study course is teaching us, is built. It's not assumed. You don't just become a good character, you build a good character. You don't just have a good life, you build a good life. Nothing comes to you by just sitting on your couch and hoping for it, right? What do they say? Hope is a guy with a six-pack of beer and a lottery ticket on his couch, right? That's hope, right? If in this world, we're learning, if you get the concept and you don't take the action, then the inspiration didn't mean anything. If you're inspired by a thought or to do something, follow it with some kind of action to bring it to this world. Take it from the idea world to this 3D world, as Karen's talking about and Jim's talking about, for the experience, to have an experience. Don't just let life pass you by. Know that you have genius within you. Well, how do you access it? That's what this home study course is all about. It's about awakening that inside. So the vocabulary is tough. It does seem complex. Man, I've been doing this for 30 plus years now, and every time I go through it, there's always more that I glean from it. There's always deeper levels that you can get to. So there's no finish line here. So you're okay right where you're at. And that's something I learned a long time ago. If God is God in those three omnis, then God knows exactly what I'm capable as at the level of where I'm at, not you, not anybody else. And therefore, if I can recognize that principle, I can have all of God right now. I don't have to wait. All of God to which I can understand in my capacity to touch God, and start there. Start now. Start today. And what I started doing is inviting that awakening, that voice inside of me is, God, can you be with me? Can you help me see the beauty of this panel? Can you help me hear the things you want me to hear? Can you be with me on this podcast? You know, I ask for God's will when we're doing our decentration before the podcast. And then I back it up by performing. I'm asking for God's will to be here. I will perform knowing that that is exactly what's happening.
You know
right?
what? That there's an interesting part that I think when you were talking is the idea of dancing, because within a partner there's a rhythmic interchange. You may be led by the man, but it's a really nice dance, and that's more like romance. So I always think for myself, when I look at a relationship, is it just coming to get, or is it coming to give and get? And is there that rhythmic interchange with the romance, which I guess, John Bonzel, you seem to have in spades, because that's what Ken says. You know how to romance. So by doing that, I think that is essential, because God wants beauty. God wants rhythm. God wants exchange. It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. And it can be literally a beautiful dance. And when it flows, it's just nice. There's no argument. There's no nothing. You're listening. You're having conversations. And to me, that's where life becomes pretty sweet.
I'd like to go back to Ken's statement there. He kind of went on, And it was so beautiful that my eyes, they're starting to water now. I mean, Ken,
Oh man.
I didn't know you had that in you, man. That was beautiful, brother.
Hey, don't mess with me, man. I'm gonna start telling all these people all about how you treat me when I'm at his ranch. You know what he tries to do with a bad back? He puts me to work, man. He makes me move mulch with a bad back. Oh, come on, man. It's just like mulch. What's wrong with you, man? Come on, stand up. You can do it. But John, it hurts my back. Don't worry about it. It'll do good. It'll strengthen it. Anyway, all right, let's go. Did we read? Yes, we just got the rhythm. Let's go ahead to the next paragraph. And on 777, James, last paragraph, Walter Russell. Who would like to read that? Karen, you want to read that?
Sure. Walter Russell has so often said, to know the wave is to know the secret of creation. You make you know the wave principle is the principle of these lessons. For centuries, man has repeated the statement, God is light. And many there are who have thought of this God light as an incandescent light, which they can see. That God has given the new knowledge of the universe to man at this critical period in his unfolding must indicate that man is now ready for it. Thus is man given the tools for his use. The world needs new fuels, water, metals for substance, and ever-increasing population, and they must produce as nominal costs to be within reach of all. So I would agree. And you know what? The toolbox is there. I mean, it's so obvious.
It's here. We're in it.
Yes, and you also point out, Ken, earlier you pointed out, and correctly so, that many of the people that have brought these technologies to us in the last 100 to 150 years have been persecuted or even murdered to keep the technologies from getting out. But now so many people are being born around the world with this innate knowledge available to them that they're going to start manifesting these cheaper fuel potentials so fast that they won't be able to stamp it out. So that transition is on us, and thank God, I send all kinds of love out to those pioneers that tried to give us this technology earlier and were punished for it. God bless them.
Yep.
But as we read in here, when I meant here, I meant the home study course. Within this 10 and 11 unit, we're being given the secrets to transmute. We just read it, those three principles: to solar technology, transmutation, and those elements of the wave. And that's what we're being revealed here. And they're trying to reveal it to us in the simplest form. It's not that everyone here needs to become a scientist, but to know the science of your creator is to know yourself, right? That's what we're learning. And again, it comes down to compression, expansion, right? We're not going to complicate it. Let's go ahead and read. Unless anybody wants to share on that paragraph? That last paragraph we read, God is light. Okay, then we will finish here on 778. We will read that first paragraph there. Who would like to read that? Mr. Bonzel, would you like to read that?
I would love to read that.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you never asked.
We give this knowledge now to meet the world's needs, and with the deep desire and prayer, not only all man's needs will be met, but by so doing, a new era may come into being wherein all mankind will become more aware of its oneness with each other through a greater understanding of the principle of life itself. For to know this principle is to know how each man is dependent on his fellow man for happiness and survival, since all living matter in this universe is a dynamic extension of itself. Working in unity, man will not only survive, but he will live abundantly and ecstatically, for he will then have become aware of who he is and what he is, and he will know his true purpose on earth by expressing the great laws of the Creator from whom he extends. So,
would you like to share on that?
Yes. So that statement right there, that paragraph, should give all listening hope that we are transforming. We're moving into a new era of human relations. So the science will be there. So I think it was Alexis Carrel that said that man is the least known of all the sciences.
Yeah.
But yet man is man's greatest asset. So I think that lesson is still being learned, but when it's learned and understood completely, we'll all have better lives. So that's the responsibility that we have as those that embrace this message, is to be an example of these teachings. Try to live these principles, try to demonstrate these principles, to family, to friends, to neighbors, to associates. And you never know. You never know when that seed will start to blossom.
Yeah, and I really love about that last paragraph is it tells me how much I need everybody, not just anybody, but everybody. We're all connected indissolubly as everything is trying to become every other thing. And Mr. Porter talks about we're all trying to become male, female. We're all interchanging, which is a difficult concept. But when you think of it, everything is trying to become every other thing. You start to realize, yeah, that kind of makes sense, but then the most important part to me is how important people are. Everybody's important, and everybody has the same capacity within them. The three omnis of omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. Those three elements are within every human being, not just a part in some and more in the others. We all have the full abundance of what God has to give, and that is love, and the desire to express love. We use light, right? And there's two parts to prayer. You can't just sit here, God give me this and God give me that, and I will trust that all these things will come into my life, and then go out and worry and be concerned that are they going to come or they're not going to come? If they don't look like they're going to come, maybe they will come. The carpet's going to get pulled out from under me. The two parts to prayer are real important to me. Whatever you pray, make sure you give a performance that adheres to that prayer. When you talk to God, there comes a performance. Yes, Karen.
Just a thought on when we know that God only makes fire and water, that is still the alchemical aspect of yourself, which is also a science and a technology. And in the Eastern traditions, where Walter Russell used to carry his Bhagavad Gita in his pocket, he understood, again, we are to become more people of character. We can learn to create and harness our own elemental self to be the best that we can be, to learn that our breath, the air we breathe, what we say, the water, what we store in our body, what we keep, and the fire, the desires that we go with. All of those are still what we do with ourselves as transmutation of elements to become our better selves.
Yes, beautiful.
Well said. Okay, that's it. We are a wrap for tonight, and we're going to enjoy this great visual journey that Karen has created for us. I want to thank everybody for being here. We didn't get to too much of our questions and our audience, but we know you're there. I'm glad we got through the lesson. It took the whole hour and a half to get there, and we will do some question and answers. If anybody has any questions while we're doing the visual journey, now would be a good time, or statements, now would be a good time. And then when we come back, maybe Karen, you could read those or let us know who's there, since I don't know how to, I can't multitask. I'm a man.
I just want to say, when you watch the video, I tried to put in, like we talk about the skin, but I put in nature. So you guys can contemplate when you go for a walk, all of a sudden you can see it as you're walking in this world, and how it actually builds things. So I did put that in mind just for our own thinking. So when you take a walk, you can have those aha moments. There's a few in there.
I wanted to say to our audience, I'd like to give them an invitation to join me Wednesday night. And I'm going to be speaking on the lectures, the lecture series, actually, of Dr. Russell, 1952, 53, and 54. And it is amazing to hear Doctor's voice, and to basically, like, here we are reading and we're conversing over the home study course, but to try to imagine sitting in that room with Dr. Russell and him demonstrating and drawing on a chalkboard and speaking of these principles and his illumination. Look at that. I mean, what a treat that must have been. So anyway, I'd like everybody to join me Wednesday night, if possible, 7:00. Love to have you all join us.
Eastern time.
Yeah, thank you for making that announcement. And one more thing on the visual journey, that Karen has put the page number and the paragraph that's referencing the imaging that you're seeing. So if you want to go through your home study course to see where the quotes have been pulled from, you can see them there. And if it's somewhere else, she references the books they're pulled from. But the page numbers are now going to be put on the visual journey just so you kind of have a roadmap. That's a new thing. I want to thank Karen for putting up there. And while we do this visual journey, one more thing is that we are self-supporting through our own contributions. This podcast is not paid for by anybody. There is a cost to it every week. So whatever donations that you can allocate or bring towards us are so much appreciated in carrying this message. Even just a little bit. You don't have to dig deep. And if you can dig deep, that'd be great. But whatever you can contribute is a big part of participating also. Just because you're not on a panel does not mean that we don't feel you, we don't love you, and that we can't connect to you. We can, and that is what our goal is. So as we see the visual journey, we'll come back and see if we got any questions or anything we need to wrap up. But in the meantime, why don't you enjoy this visual journey that Karen set up for us. Great job, Ken. You guys are on mute.
I do my best to mute myself from time to time.
Beautiful, Karen.
All right. Oh, wow, Kenneth, man, you got a super blast. Thank you, Kenneth. That is so well needed. Oh my gosh. You know,
Ken?
the average cost of this, just so you guys know, is around $2K a month. I don't want to put that out there and intimidate, just letting you know, as I said, we are self-supporting through our own contributions. So we appreciate that, Kenneth. That is a way to step up. That is so much appreciated. Thank you so much. Gosh, that is a great donation.
Ken, I used to work with that young man, Kenneth Meadows, and he so he has recently reached out, and he's joining us now, and he's reading, and I'm so proud of him. And he's joining us in the evenings, and he's doing his part to spread the message. So anyway, Ken, shout out to you, buddy, and we'll hook up soon.
He says that to me all the time, Ken. I never see him, but good luck. but I'm not like everybody. All right, you guys. Any questions, or do we got any other comments that we want to note there, Karen? Do we take any note of any comments? Or are we good?
Nope. Just
oh, there's Karen Mahan. I don't know how to donate here. Is it the same if I donate to the university? No, Karen, it is not. James, can you put up that bring up that link to donate? Por favor. So why don't we hold it there? Can you hold it there? Oh, it's coming back again, Karen. Oh. It was up. I guess James doesn't want you to donate, Karen, but we do. So we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait. There it is. There it is. All right, thanks, James. That he put it up there in static. All right, good man. See, that was
buyingthecop.com. I love it. That's pretty fun.
Yeah. So anything at all is so appreciated, you guys, and we couldn't do this without you. We do this from our hearts with love. And this is definitely made with love, and you're seeing love and expression, not just within, but in the actions that we're taking by showing up. And all you in the audience and on this podcast are showing love to us and to this world. We're all about making this world a better place. That's what this really comes down to. One character at a time, starting with me and then working our way out to other people by the way we interact with them. That rhythmic balance interchange is really, really so important. So thank you guys so much for your donations. They are so appreciated. As a matter of fact, I better wait for Kimberly to come back, because there was a gift that was given to this our program, but I'm gonna let Kimberly. I gotta wait till Kimberly's here before we make that expression of great gratitude for the gift, because we got a big surprise coming for you guys that will even help us in a greater detail to exemplify imaging and verbiage and break it down to even greater degree as though we couldn't before. And Kimberly will reveal that to you next Sunday as we have our podcast then. And I don't want to spoil it. So yeah, it's a big one. It's a good one. It was a pretty heavy duty one. So I'll tell you that much. So it's a cool surprise. Anybody else have anything else they want to say before we wrap up?
Nope. Thank you, everybody. Always
all right,
fun.
Guys. Thank you so much. Have a great night. God bless everybody. We are sending love to you all. Like my girl says, love, man. Get some love. Get some love.
All right.